Already more than 20 packages of sanctions against Russia have been adopted by the EU. Are they working?
I'm here to argue that we could do more, but I think that with what we have, they are actually working. Now they are evacuating some cities in Crimea. Russia has lost 30,000 soldiers per month, and they recruited 27,000 soldiers per month. In Europe, we still have 28 billions of direct money that go to Russia, and I think now it's the right moment to just go one step further. That by the end of this year, I don't know if Putin would still be there.
Our guest, Salvatore Ricci, is the initiator of the European Citizens Initiative Stop Funding Russia's War. The initiative denounces that the EU is still importing 28 billion euros a year from Russia, including natural gas, steel, fertilizers, or nickel. Ricci demands that the EU must become free from Russian influence and must stop funding its war machine. He tells us why companies are still buying from Russia and why governments don't want to intervene. Salvatore, already more than 20 packages of sanctions against Russia have been adopted by the EU. Are they working?
Well, thank you for this question. I would say that they are working. I mean, I'm here to argue that we could do more, but I think that with what we have, they are actually working. So let me just put a few things in perspective. You know, yesterday, of course, before this, I was doing some research on sanctions, just to give you some numbers. Of course, I mean, if you ask someone from Russia that is influenced by Putin, he would say otherwise. But, you know, I took some data that are quite reputable. I mean, I took this from the Center for Strategic International Studies. It's quite reputable in the US and also here in Europe. So if we look Europe, okay, sanctions have been effective because the imports of Russian products have sharply declined. I think we were giving to Russia about 200,000 billions of euros. Now we are 28 billions, so the flow has stopped. When we talk about oil, I think when the war started in 2022, well, the second invasion, we were oil 27%. It accounted 27% of market share in Europe. Now it's 2%, so it has declined. Gas, it's a little bit more difficult for gas, 45%. Now we are at 12%. But I think the most important thing, it's not just about how much we have diversified from Russia, it's also how much it is impacting Russia, right? And I think from that point of view, I would argue that it is impacting. So if you look at the latest data of OECD, now Russia economy is going down, we have inflation, prices are rising, and now in the first semester of this year, the economy is also actually shrinking. I think we are talking about 0.5%, 1%. I mean, it depends, you know, it's not very clear since that, but it is working from this point of view. And I would argue one last thing, this year it's going very bad for Russia, and actually it's going so bad that even Putin is admitting it a little bit, and he has increased taxes. So we have increased VAT and other taxes. So they are working, I would say.
And still, I'm wondering, because I remember, you know, in 2022 when the war started, everybody was saying from the EU Commission and the Parliament, now we are hitting Russia with super strong sanctions, we are stopping their war machine. And now 4 years later, it's a bit like, yeah, okay, but they continue the war. So how bad does it look for Russia, actually?
Well, you know, this is a critique, of course, that has been advanced. And I would argue that, of course, it hasn't worked fully. Otherwise, the war would have been over. That is a reality. Yeah? But I think that it has impacted their capability of attacking Russia and winning this war. I mean, they were supposed to win this war in 2 weeks. Still, we are here, and the economy is getting bad. I would argue that by the end of this year, I don't know if Putin would still be there, because I mean, his economy is not going well. Russia is not going well. Then, of course, it's not just about you. You did a lot of things and they were working, but it needs also other actors internationally to work in the same sense of the EU. US has done a little bit. India, China have not done that much. So probably that has helped and mitigate a little bit of the impact.
Where do you see that the end goal of those sanctions? Is it to weaken Russia? Is it for us just to say our moral hands are clean? We don't...
Look, thanks. That's a very interesting question. So in my view, I would say, first of all, it is to inflict pain on Russian economy, because ultimately I think that the people have to feel the consequences of this war that their government has started. And I think this is one way to make them feel this. The more sanctions are hurting the economy, as I told you, now taxes are increasing, prices are going up, so they are feeling this. And the more they feel, probably the more they will protest against the government. They realize that this is not good for them. But on the other side, there are many people that they would argue, okay, sanctions are not working, why do we use them? Okay, maybe I'm not convincing them, maybe they have their own arguments, okay, it doesn't matter. But for me also, the second part that you mentioned, it's also as a matter of principle. Okay, if you don't believe in the power of sanctions, why would you trade with a country that is attacking other countries just out of nowhere? Unprovoked war, I would call it. So why would you do that? You don't believe in the power of sanction, okay, but why would you buy products from Russia? Why?
And then what do you make of the role of China in the effectiveness of sanctions? Do you think they are playing a crucial role in balancing the Western sanctions?
Unfortunately, I think they have played an important role. The petrol that was not going to Europe probably has gone to Russia. Now, to be honest, I don't have the exact number on this, but I reading and so on, I have the feeling that the export that were going to Europe and the US, now they have diverted to Iran, China, which is big. So I think that India unfortunately, India as well, exactly for petrol. So unfortunately, this is a loophole. We cannot do much. We can do something, but of course, it takes also collaboration from China.
Yeah, and considering the situation on the ground, on the war ground after 4 years, indeed. Now, recently, we are seeing the strategy of Ukraine of targeting the refineries in Russia. What do you make out of it? Do you think it will play a crucial role in finishing this war soon?
Yes, I think, to be honest with you, I think it is playing. And it's very unfortunate because from one side, we should have done this ourselves. As a G7, we should have gone a little bit farther. But what we are seeing lately, now that they are hitting their petrol facilities, I really think that they are working. So the export of Russia, they have declined. If you look at the statistics, they have declined because of these attacks that Ukraine is launching. They call them sanctions. They call sanctions, right? And they are working. And actually, if you see, I think it was a news of this last week, Crimea. Now they are evacuating some cities in Crimea because there is no more petrol, and that's because of Ukraine that is attacking those. So yes, I would have hoped that it would have been the G7 sanction altogether pushing this, but unfortunately they took matter on their hand. I can understand that.
I think this is very interesting because, first of all, like in the peak days, it impacted around 1/3 of the Russian full refining capacity, so it's a lot. And on the other hand, this is an attack like more than 1,000 kilometers into the Russian Federation ground. And in the end, all this fear of escalation is not there because Russia is not that as retaliated with nuclear weapons as it was threatened several times. So do you think the West could have done this without an escalation on the same way?
Well, I would have hoped, as I said before, I would have hoped that we could have done this. As I said before, unfortunately, it takes more than just Europe and the US to do this concretely. So I would have hoped that we could have done something more, maybe push a little bit more at India and China, but we didn't do it. So Ukraine took matters on their end, and it is working. I would say so.
And I would say still with the help of Western technology, they were able to do these strikes.
Yes, of course. It's I think, of course, now if you look in matters of drones and so on, Ukraine has developed a lot of expertise and much better now than everybody because with the ground. But of course, I think that the support that we have given to them, it's very important.
And including for drones. I just read a few days ago that the Commission disbursed, I think, 2 or 3 billion for drones. I think overall they will get 6 billion. Actually, I'm now thinking about it. It's quite surprising because I remember in the beginning of the war there was a lot of threatening by Putin saying, "Don't help Ukraine, or we will retaliate also against you." These days, I don't really hear about it anymore. What happened with that?
This I cannot tell you, but do you think that, now, of course, we can all put hypotheses, and I really don't hope that it escalates to that much, but do you think that Russia could, in the situation that they are now, the economy is shrinking, and then I'll give you actually another number, but the situation that they are now, do you really think that they could take a war with Europe and US and take that risk. I don't think so. You know, I put some numbers before. I mean, if you look at the war now, I was looking today. So from 2026, Russia has lost 30,000 soldiers, right? Some dispersed, you know, casualties. Okay, 30,000 soldiers per month. Okay, that's a lot. And they recruited 27,000 soldiers per month. So they are losing more than they are recruiting. So basically, in January, you lose 30,000. At the end of January, you get 27 more. In February, they die. And then you get other people and they say, okay, go there. And certainly you will die. Because so do you think that under all these circumstances, they could take a war with Europe? I do not. I don't want an escalation, but I don't think so. I think that those threats are a little bit empty.
And there are also some signs now that, Putin reacts to the drone strikes. Now Zelensky just ordered 40 days of sanctions, of strikes against Russia. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Putin, they cancelled the Russia Day celebration in Moscow for fear
exactly. That was a big blow, I would argue. Of course, they wouldn't say it that way, they wouldn't see it that way, but that was a big blow. And so these are all signs that things are not going well for Putin. That's why I don't know if he will make it until the end of the year. I don't know. I think that maybe now people, I would hope, of course, their society, it's very much controlled, the media and all, very much controlled by the government. But I would hope that they realize, okay, situation is not going well. Prices are going up. We send our kids to war and they don't come back. So I hope that at some point they realize and they say, okay, is it worth to have all of this?
Yeah.
And I think there the biggest role will be played by the military elite of Russia now, which is really that holds the power and the business elite. Yeah. So do you think that at the moment there is a concrete risk for a coup in Russia?
Well, I think with the more time that passes and these sanctions that you say are planned by Ukraine, that there is a real risk. This is very much speculation. I don't know. But I saw also that there are these news going around on this poly market where people are betting that he would go out. You never know. They bet a lot of money that he would go out, but he wouldn't make it by the end of the year. So maybe that would make it. But look, apart aside all these speculations, in my view, now that things are going bad for Ukraine, for Russia, they are losing people. The economy is not going well. It's shrinking. I think that this is the time for the EU to step up and do a little bit more in terms of sanctions. In Europe, we still have 28 billions of direct money that go to Russia, and I think now it's the right moment to just go one step further.
Tell us a bit more about this. About this 28.
Yeah, exactly. We launched with a group of people last December a European Citizen Initiative because that whole started with me starting a new job and looking at the trade data, and then I found out that Europe is still importing steel slabs. So slabs is a semi-finished product. It's used in the whole, so it's central on the value chain of steel. And now if you read the news, there is too much steel. So you go online, there is too much steel. So first question, why do we import steel from Russia if there is too much worldwide? So I realized this, I digged a little bit into the data, and then I found out that we are sending about 2 billion to Russia for a product that we can find it elsewhere, anywhere in the world. And we are doing this because we have a Russian company in Europe which wants to import these slabs from their mother company in Russia. So it's a complete crazy system. This should end immediately, but okay, whatever, that company. So then I spoke with a couple of people about this, and we did some research, and this same system is replicated in other sectors. Then if you add all them up, it's 28 billions. And we argue that this, can not just can, but it should be stopped soon, because we can find these products anywhere.
Yeah. And to understand better, so you have 28 billion of basically composed of EU companies based in the EU that have their mother company in Russia that are importing from the mother company in Russia.
No, I would say it's not for this kind of system. It doesn't account for the whole 28 billions, but it probably accounts for half of them. So if you look, in the context of steel, the company is called NLMK. It operates in 4 different countries. NLMK is the 4th biggest Russian company. Its chairman is probably the second or third richest person in Russia. So he has these 4 facilities in Europe, and for them it is easier to just get this product from Russia, and that's what they do. The same it applies also fertilizers. They get raw material in Russia and then they import here. Then there are also, this 28 billions, there is also part that is gas. Petrol, it's very slow, but there is also part of gas. But I would say half, maybe it's about this kind of system that we could just,
And the really interesting question for me is, how can it be that this is still there? Because I'm sure heads of government, the member states are aware of this. Yeah. So how does a Russian company manage to lobby the system?
So first of all, it's a very interesting question. We are launching this, we are pushing this into the public because you should know that this company in Belgium, the subsidiaries of this NLMK in Belgium is owned 51% by the Russian mother company and 49% by the region of Walloon. So the region has an interest to keep it there. That's already part of the answer. Then the second part is, of course, unanimity. Someone can always say, yeah, I don't want to this sanction, unanimity, so I go against. But that question for me, this is crazy, and I think that's why we launched initially, because people should know that this product, they can just get it anywhere. I mean, I can give you the data, they can get anywhere. There is too much steel. They can get it from Vietnam, from China, from US, from Brazil. They can get anywhere, but they want to keep it getting in there. So at some point I also heard the kind of argument related to this, that sanctions must hurt Russia more than it hurts us. But for me, this, the more I think about it, this is a bit of stupidity. I mean, we have reduced, I think, from, petrol from Russia went very high, now 2%. I'm sure that the economy was impacted. Gas, the prices have gone up also because of that. So, I mean, I don't know what we are talking about here.
You mentioned before unanimity. Which are the member states which block most at the moment?
Well, I would say Belgium is the first one. Belgium is the first one because there is this Walloon region. And then, funny enough, the one that have opposed, it's Czech Republic. They have a facility there. Denmark have one, and Italy has one. So this company has facility in all these states, and they oppose it. By the way, just to put things in perspective, so Russian steel slabs, they were supposed to be prohibited from 2026. Then they extended this with a sanction. They negotiated, let's give an extension. Now it's 2028. Now there are 2 rounds. So the way that it works is that on 1st of October, it will open the new quota for the year. Last year, it opened on October. 10 days after, it was already exhausted. So they imported everything on the same. So now in October, it will open again. They will exhaust the quota within the first few days, and it's already 2 billion that's gone away. So, yeah.
And it's super weird for me to hear those countries, Belgium and Denmark and Italy and Czechia, because usually if you speak about Russian sanctions, the one who picks all the blame is Hungary and maybe sometimes Bulgaria or Romania, but like those countries are a bit out of the public eye. Why is this?
Maybe it didn't make the news. Maybe they want to keep it that way, but now I invite you, everybody, to look at 2 articles that have come up. So there is an investigation from the Kiev Independent that looked into this. So now we are trying to push the public to know about what's happening. And then also another, now I forgot the name, another very well-known journal in Belgium is talking about this. It's saying, okay, what's happening? Why are we opposing this? So we hope that maybe with the pressure of the public, this can be discussed. Okay, is it fair? Should it stay or should it not stay?
Because the interest there, if you said that there is too much steel around, in terms of prices, first of all, do you think is
of course, it's the lowest price that they have an advantage to have these, because it's their mother company exports to them at a favorite price, and they are the cheapest one. They want to sell these products because they need some money. Of course, there is an interest, but just know that in Europe, there is only this company that is importing it. Other companies, they import other ones. So they compete on other prices, They should just, they could do just the same.
Yeah. And of course, despite the competitive advantage of prices, do you also think there is a possibility of losing European jobs if, for example, they
in my view, no. In my view, no, because there is just too much steel around. So I'm sure that if you go to the Chinese and you say, I need that kind of steel, they will give you maybe even lower price or something like that. China is, now well, this is related to my job. There is the new trade measure on 28 products. These slabs are out of that measure. And we have seen already China that has increased 10 times the amount of those products exported because they just have a lot of it. So they could do the same, and the impact would be much, I can tell you, it would be much more minimum, much less than what you have seen with gas, petrol, and other things that have increased.
But is 28 billion are mainly steel?
No,
or
no. It's 2 billion. Okay. It's steel. Then there is, I think, a big part is also gas, fertilizers. It's another one, yes, of course. Then there is chemicals. Again, also there, it's base chemicals. It's not like high quality that you can't find anywhere. So chemicals. Then there is a little bit of nickel, if I'm not mistaken. So, this is there is a big chunk of gas, which is, we are phasing it out. I think there is a law in place. And then all these niche products that we should just take.
And here, let me just ask a follow-up, because all these products, they're bought by the European Union, so obviously the profits go to Russia, and your Citizens Initiative says we stop the funding to Russia, to Russia's war, I think.
Exactly.
But is it really accurate to say that these profits benefit the war machine, or is it just the companies keeping them and it's not going?
Well, no, because so for instance, if you take again the case of NLMK. It's double. I mean, maybe the second one you can dispute, but the first one I don't think so, because the NLMK Europe buys these products that come from Russia. They give the money directly to Russia, to the NLMK Russia company. NLMK Russia company, on their revenues, they pay taxes to the government. Okay. You can put it that way. Second, actually, you should also know, and it's publicly documented. That's why I still think, I don't know how they managed to escape. NLMK Russia, so the same company, they are the fourth largest steel producer in Russia, and it is linked to the war. They can produce electrical steel, for instance. They are the only one producing electrical steel, and that steel is used in all the missiles and so on that Russia uses. And to be honest with you, I don't know why it has not been sanctioned. If you take Australia and Canada, it is. Because in Australia and Canada, they don't have a business. In US and Europe, they have a business, so probably they are not sanctioned. But if you go online and you see Canada and Canada and Australia, they sanction already this company.
And this applies also to other products like fertilizer, for example.
Yes, exactly.
They are heavily used in the battlefield.
Yes,
in Ukraine.
exactly, and for sure, and That's why we really call for this to stop. Of course, recently you have seen aluminium. The case of aluminum, which is a bit different because it's an export. So we produce it here and we export there, and then they use it. For me, that's also outrageous. It's not part of our initiative because for us, it's import ban. Of course, we support it as a matter of principle. We don't want to help in any way the war in Russia. But I think the public should also know these kind of things that are happening. So we hope to bring a little bit more light into those.
And how is going there in terms of awareness, achievements of this?
So, as I told you, we have Kiev Independent now is running investigation, then also other journals in Belgium. Then we have built a letter with MEPs, members of the European Parliament, and it got, as of today, 25 signatures. And this is not just, very extreme parties, it's mainstream parties. All of them we have from EPP, Renew, SD, Greens, very strong from Greens, the left. So it is cross-party, and it is gaining a lot of traction.
But still, for a citizens initiative, you need 1 million signatures.
Yes, that's because states, so this is, of course, this is exactly. It's very tough. This is the part of the It's for us to get known a little bit in the public, to get out there. And I really think it is not easy to get all these signatures, of course, but I think the more we talk about it and the more people know about it, it gets viral. And with virality, I think once it starts, it spreads very fast. Unfortunately, when so if you look at other European citizen initiative, they planned everything in advance. So I think about My Voice, My Choice. They decided to. So the initiative was accepted, and then they took like 3-4 months to plan everything and to have a whole campaign. For us, it was a bit different. We want less money to go as soon as possible to Russia, so we couldn't wait. So we launched it fast enough, and then we did the other way around. So maybe we're penalized by that, but it doesn't care because we can wait.
Until when do you have?
So we have 1 year until the end of February 2027. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And did you get some resistance on the web on the Russian side?
We have the support of different political parties. It is a citizen-led campaign, but as we put it out there are some political parties that supported us. One of them is Volt. I remember when they published it, Volt Italy published it on their social channels. I think we got like 50 or 60 comments from people saying, yes, we should support Putin, stop this war. Putin is right in this war. Probably the propaganda the Kremlin is paying them, and it's very sad to see, to be honest, how people maybe either they are paid or they are brainwashed. But one argument that they were bringing is always going back to Russia, it's having some sort of strategic autonomy, independence for the EU, but I would argue it's completely the opposite. You can see when the EU is reliant on one country, as it did with Russian gas, we are really vulnerable, because the moment they decide that we are not doing things right, they can just pull the plug and our economy stops. So, and we cannot trust someone as Putin that has invaded Ukraine, as we all say, unprovoked war.
Mm-hmm. And so far, how many signatures, more or less?
So I think, unfortunately, you can see it both ways. We are 15,000. It's very far away. But you can also argue that we are just 7 people, 8 people. Well, now we have grown, but we are just a bunch of people with no funds, with no real systematic support. We got 15,000. We have a few plans for the next months to get this viral. But we are trying. We are trying our best.
And all of this is outside working hours, no?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly. And there was at some point one very funny article which came, guess what, from the right, the extreme right. I think it was European Conservative Journal or something like that. He was arguing that my initiative was a whole plot between industry, the Swedish government and the Finnish government and myself. We all plotted it and we launched it out there.
You're well connected.
Exactly. I'm very connected. But by the way, they gave me the connection, so I didn't know these people, and then they gave me the name, which is good. I could contact them. But I can tell you I just wanted to clear this here. Of course, there is an interest from my company to not see these slabs, for instance, coming from Russia. But my company is, as ArcelorMittal, is the first producer of steel in the world. And to be honest, it's not from an economic point of view, it is not our priority to invest resources into this, because our margin would be very small compared to so, and also it will benefit all companies in Europe. So it is not sponsored at all by my company. It is really me having my ideas after my working hours on what should be right and what should be wrong and what I want to invest my time. And I think that this is completely wrong.
Yeah, and still a lot of drive, no? To put it into place, to decide to do it. Why specifically this case? Because it's related to your job, or?
Yes, no, I think it's thanks to my job that I learned it, because before I didn't know about it. You didn't know, right? So it's something that it isn't known. I mean, if you Google it, you will see a few now the last 2, okay, but before that, the few articles were maybe from 3 or 4 years ago. So nobody's really talking about it. I said, this can be right. So people needs to talk about this. And guess what? Indeed, when I start talking about it, then we found out that the same system applies into fertilizers and other sector. when we start talking about it, then we discover also the shadow fleet issues and all these kind of issues. So we want to bring this issue to the society and tell them, our society, is this what the kind of society that we want? A society that directly sponsors war.
If you manage to get the million signatures, you will meet the commission to make the case. Will you demand a total stop of any trade with Russia, or some form of balance?
Well, I would argue. So our first point of departure is to stop all kind of trade activity with Russia on the basis that the remaining products can be fastly phased out. Of course, then if you have, maybe as they like to call it, the impact is too big for Europe and very small for Russia, okay, we can talk about it. But our first point is the maximum no trade with Russia. Since we're talking on this topic, another thing that was addressed to us is, okay, also in these comments that came, okay, but you are still trading with US, which is waging war. You know how they're Israel, another very hot topic. I understand. If it were to me, I would also act, for instance, against Israel and so on. But you need to realize that this initiative can be about one issue, which is imports from Russia. And I don't think that we should use this excuse to stop something concrete. So, yeah.
And you mentioned one interesting point on the shutdown of total trade with Russia, and considering that the EU packages against Russia are unparalleled in history in terms of trade sanctions. And if Putin, for example, in this war ends, coming back to normality will be basically impossible with Russia.
Well, at some point, I think there would be, let's say, what you call normality. I don't know if you can trust Putin as it did, but maybe, something will change in Russia. Maybe there will be a change of government. I don't know. I cannot say this. At some point, maybe relations will stabilize, but as a matter of principle myself, I think that we should never be reliant so much on just one country. We should be diversified. We cannot afford any longer to rely 70% of our gas imports from Russia. Now, fortunately, we are investing a lot in clean energy so that we can become self-reliant. But even if after this war, if Russia recognizes the will of Ukraine, things can go back to normal, but the normal should never be dependency. It should be diversification.
And it still will take some years, no? Because considering gas and oil, the process is reversible.
Of course.
And at the same time, we become then, for clean energies, super dependent on China. So
we are also trying, and we are also trying the best. I mean, before I was working in another association which was related to critical raw materials, copper. So, a lot of these materials come from China. We are trying to do here something at European level, where we are trying to mine and refine things at new level. It's not easy, it takes time, but I think, you need to have an objective at some point.
Well, Salvatore, thanks a lot. Amazing.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me to your podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Grazie.